Yeah, the football team's 2-0. I get it. I'm out here in Denver. I covered it. But we're going to talk about something else to open up today's program. Good afternoon to you. Good Monday afternoon. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is the new Double Shot show that comes your way at 4 p.m. Eastern every weekday. And Sidney Crosby is going to be a Penguin for life. That news arriving in the most welcome way possible today back in Pittsburgh with Sid delivering season tickets as he always does personally. They have a handful of players who do that. But in Sid's case, to be able to do that in a way where he's involving the fans, being in Pittsburgh, and just being everything that he is, it's perfect. It's perfect. Everything about his career, it seems like, has been perfect. And listen, I promise, we're going to get to the football in a second segment. The Steelers beat the Broncos here 13-6. Chris Halleck will be joining me. He's also here in Denver. But I'd be remiss if I didn't open up today by sharing what an extraordinary individual this is on so many fronts. It's a 2-year contract where he keeps the same salary, the traditional salary, the $8.7 million, based, of course, on his number, which, of course, is based on his birthday, which was 8/7/87, in a deal that he made with Kyle Dubas, the general manager of the Penguins, to say, hey, I still want to win. I still want to compete. I still want to contend. I want you to be able to have as much flexibility as you need in putting together the remainder of your roster. I want you to be able to get me some good players. But at the same time, and this is where this goes to another level, understanding that the Penguins are going to exist when he's not playing anymore, whether that's 2 years from now at the expiration of the deal or whether that's later. And this is, I don't even know how to equate what Sid does or what he's meant to this franchise and to this city with anybody else in our environment, whether that's hockey, football, and certainly baseball. You're talking about someone who is saying, listen, I understand you got to rebuild, but I'm not about to go out there and partake in some sort of project. I still want to win. How do we do this? How do we find a balance here? And they seem to be doing it between Sid and Dubas, especially in this case, Dubas, to be fair. He's brought in younger talent, younger legs, younger energy. And that's what's been missing. There's a lot of misnomers in Pittsburgh, I feel like, about the way the talent's been assembled over the past couple of years and why it's failed to make the playoffs. The real reason is not the main guys getting old, because the main guys have still been really productive. Sid's been a top 5 center in the NHL. Yevgeny Malkin has remained a top 30 center in the NHL. And remember, he's the number 2 center on this team, and you got 32 teams. So he's arguably one of the best number 2 centers anywhere. You have Chris Letang, you have Erik Karlsson. You have the makings of still being able to be competitive if you have a supporting cast that can do things, that can bring some of that vibe, that can bring some of that production from the lower lines, from the bottom of the depth chart defensively. And they worked together. They got this done. There will not be a more uplifting story in Pittsburgh today. That said, I did promise you football. We're going to get to that right after this.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Joined now by Chris Halleck, our Steelers beat writer. And Chris, we covered this game here in Denver yesterday and came away, I don't know, I don't want to speak for you here. I came away feeling pretty good about a lot of things, including the offense. Am I nuts here?
No, not at all. I think the premise of these type of shows is that we're supposed to disagree all the time, but I am actually going to agree with you here. The offense was way better than people want to think. They just look at 13 points. They look at Justin Fields having less than 120 yards passing, and they just think that this was another Matt Canada catastrophe, and it just wasn't. You just look at the tape. Look at how Justin played. Look at how the offensive line played in the first half. If they don't commit penalty after penalty, if Broderick Jones doesn't derail an entire series by himself, they've got 20 points at halftime at least. We're not even talking about complaints because the offense would have put up the necessary points.
Yeah, the part that gets me is that I guess maybe I'm wrong to do this, but I look at this team for what it can be as opposed to what it is in the moment. So I look at the highlights from the first half. I look at the plays that were made. I look at the talent that was involved. I look at some of the imagination that was involved in crafting these plays. And I say, okay, now what's missing? 1, offensive line play. 2, gotta find a way to get another wide receiver. That's on Omar. Okay. I don't want to skip past that. Okay. And the other part is the obvious is that they need to not take 1,000 penalties. Now, all 3 of those, as I see it, are fixable. Whereas you can't fix if you have a quarterback who can't make the throws, if you don't have running backs, if you don't have George Pickens, if you don't have Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington, and for that matter, if you don't have that raw talent, that high pedigree that you have on the offensive line. You got all that. It's all there. You just got to put it together.
I agree. And whenever we were looking at the Steelers' schedule, when this season began, this was the time in which they could get away with what Mike Tomlin calls playing September ball, right? This is still kind of the beginning of the team development portion of the season, and they're winning football games while doing it. Win-win, literally. I mean, there's only one way to go here, and that is up, because the points aren't indicative of what they're actually doing. But as soon as they start cleaning some of the stuff up, you'll see results. And it's just one of those situations where you want to tell people to just be patient and wait for things to happen. There are definitely some criticisms. I've only just begun combing through the film. There are some criticisms there for sure. Second half wasn't great, but overall, there's no reason to be jumping off of a cliff here or anything.
No, if anything, it's the other way around. And again, when you talk about the first half and you think about the very easy potential for there to have been 20 points as opposed to 10, the entire conversation changes. Now you're looking at them the way everybody was looking at, who was it that clobbered Carolina yesterday? Put up a zillion. Oh, it was the Chargers.
The Chargers.
Yeah, the next opponent. And you're looking at them the same way and saying, wow, what geniuses, whatever. It's just, it's like this. This is what Arthur Smith motioned to me in the locker room afterward. It's like this, and it's just a matter of getting it there. To me, I guess, and I mentioned these guys first. You're looking at the offensive line more than anything else. Okay, when you're talking about pure performance, you're talking about the offensive line. But Chris, we've been talking about them for a while now, and we knew they were going to go young. Everybody wanted them to go young and to go invest high picks in it. Well, they did that, and it's not going to be instant.
No, it's not. That's the thing, is that, okay, everybody wants the offensive line, wants the young guys to play. Zach Frazier's playing. Troy Fautanu's playing. Broderick Jones would be playing if he doesn't get benched twice. I mean, seriously, the young guys are playing. Spencer Anderson's getting an opportunity because Isaac Seumalo is injured. So this is what comes with playing young offensive linemen. They're going to have some times in which their talent shows. Then there are going to be some times in which their inexperience shows. It comes with the territory. And again, if you can do that and put notches in the win column, again, win here.
Now, we can't talk about the offensive line without specifically addressing Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu. Jones was benched before the game, and you have some exclusive reporting that you shared with our readers on DK Pittsburgh Sports this morning, and you can share that here as well.
Yeah, so from what multiple sources have indicated to me is that Broderick Jones, Troy Fautanu was started over Jones because of subpar performance in the preseason and the season opener, and the main reason for that was lack of effort and like an either inability or unwillingness to finish blocks. And he had one really good block. The one series he got in outside of the penalties, I have watched that series. He had one really good block on the Najee run that got them near midfield. Really good block. Earlier in the series, you saw an example of exactly what I was told. He kind of starts this block and he just kind of stops.
And he stops. It's the Chooks Okorafor thing that would drive you nuts. Okay.
Yes.
Where you would say, "Oh, that's good, Chooks. That's good. Wait, Chooks, wait, it's not over. Chooks, you gotta finish the guy. What are you doing?" You know, it's not great. And then on top of that, now he's holding because he didn't finish. He's now looking at the end and he's going, okay, well, geez. Troy Fautanu, on the other hand, goes out there, takes the job literally, even though they were supposed to rotate, and then just keeps performing well. He might have been the only guy on the entire line who performed well.
Zach Frazier did have a really good first half. The second half was not great, but Zach Frazier was laying bodies in the first half, literally. I mean, laying on top of guys.
He was on top of, yes,
because he was planting them. But yes, Troy Fautanu did have a good NFL debut. I'm curious to see what some of the experts want to grade him as, but either way, the eye test does enough to be like, okay, he had a really good first game. And that's not good news for Broderick Jones because Dan Moore wasn't as good as he was in Atlanta, but still had an overall pretty decent game. And if he already has some people on the inside worried about his level of effort and his level of willingness to finish blocks, that's stuff that is player correctable stuff. People don't want to talk about, blame Pat Meyer or anybody else. No, that is on the player. Effort should never be in question when it comes to the player. Coaches are there to correct technique and everything like that. Players shouldn't have to be motivated by coaches to give 100%.
And one other thing to remember is Isaac Seumalo is coming back sooner rather than later, maybe in time for the home opener against the Chargers. When we come back, thanks, Chris. When we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
Welcome back. It's time for J1Q, and let's just get right to it.
Hey guys, my name's Nate, and I live in Sharon, Massachusetts. I'm never going to complain about being 2-0, but it's painfully obvious that the Steelers still lack that legitimate number 2 receiver opposite George Pickens. So what are we going to do? What's the game plan? How long can the offense keep this up? This is not sustainable, right? I mean, we can't just keep chucking it up to George and praying that we don't get called back for a penalty. Come on. Love the show. Keep up the good work. Just want to hear your thoughts. Thanks a lot. Bye.
I loved the disgusted sigh there. We can't just keep chucking it up. We can't just keep counting on George. You know what, Nate? You're completely right. You know, in the last segment there with Chris, I brought up that as one of the 3 issues that the Steelers face offensively. And it's the only one, I should add, that can't, I think, be addressed internally, or maybe can't. See, here's the thing. We still haven't seen Roman Wilson. We've seen him in a couple of practices. We've seen him way back at the beginning of training camp. But he's had the knee injury. It's kept him out. It kept him out again here yesterday. And I think there'd be some trepidation if you're the Steelers to go ahead and make some big move and bring in some, big high-end player and then find out that Roman Wilson was the answer all along. Now, I don't know, man. I'm seeing the same thing you are, my friend, okay? I'm seeing, and I don't know how clear this is on TV or whatever, but I can tell you that from the press box at whatever the Broncos are calling their stadium this week, you could see Justin Fields was looking around. He was trying to find people, and they were not open. And not only that, they weren't working to get open. They weren't coming back to him whenever you'd see him roll to one side or the other. They would just kind of say, you know what? I'm covered. I lost this matchup. And that's just not okay. Is that coachable to an extent? Sure. You can have a good talk with a Calvin Austin, a Van Jefferson, and say, hey, guys, from now on, when you see Justin roll to this side or that, go help him. What are you doing? Why are you just being covered? Get off of your defender. But I don't think so. And when you start seeing the Steelers face more familiar opponents and opponents who are more familiar with them, what you're going to see is they're going to just take George out. I thought Denver, I thought the Broncos were going to do that here. I thought they'd be all over Pickens the way Sean Payton was talking about him all through the week. They didn't do that. They just had regular old coverage, and then a safety would come over for help. And that's just not going to cut it against a wide receiver of that caliber. But I'll tell you what, I don't think the Chargers are going to do it. And I know the AFC North opponents aren't going to do it. So you're going to have to get somebody. That means Omar Khan needs to get back on the phone, assuming he ever got off of it, and trying to find someone like this. I've said this all along. Brandon Ayuk was not the only available wide receiver out there. Would you call the Carolina Panthers? Would you do that? It's not like they're going anywhere. Just saying. You know who I'm talking about, Deontay Johnson. Just something to think about. I appreciate the question, Nate. I appreciate Chris Halleck here with me in Denver, being on in the middle segment, and I really appreciate Sidney Patrick Crosby. Just want to close today's show with that. We'll see everybody tomorrow, flying back to Pittsburgh later today.